Greetings, Earthers, Martians, Belters, members of the OPA. Welcome to episode 22 of Expanse, the unofficial podcast. I'm your host, Lex Starwalker.
And I'm your host, Nikki Starwalker.
And today we are back fighting the flu, slowly winning, I think, here to talk about the episode Godspeed.
Oh, wow. When you said that, I almost coughed. Whew.
Yeah, and I think this is a ironic title for this episode, which I think we'll get into later. As we tend to do on this show, we're just going to kind of chronologically go through the episode. We might skip around a little bit just because, you know, the way the scenes are, they go back and forth, and sometimes it's better just to kind of discuss one arc and then go to discuss the A story, then discuss the B story kind of thing.
Right.
And, you know, for the sake of time, we may not discuss every single scene. We're going to hit the highlights and talk about what we thought about this episode. And, you know, things are definitely ramping up here in season 2. Definitely gaining momentum a lot faster than we did in season 1.
Yes.
I feel like season 1 was a giant prelude. Don't you?
Yeah. And I know we don't talk much about the books on the show, but I will say that they're kind of blazing through the pages right now. We're kind of jumping through the book a lot faster in season 2 than we did in season 1. And I like that. Yeah.
And I think at this point, we're still in the first book. So,
okay.
You know, they're taking their time overall, but I definitely agree. If you were looking at how many pages they're covering per episode, it definitely seems to be speeding up. So we start out this week with Fred Johnson sending a message to Avasarala in response to her last week asking him for help and you know, admitting that, you know, all the negative propaganda she was spreading about him being behind all this, how it was all lies, and asking for his help, saying, you know, if you have any cards to play, this is the time. Mm-hmm. And so Fred responds by sending her coordinates to one of the stealth ships that we've been seeing so much of, floating abandoned in space.
Yeah. And Avasarala responds to this by wanting her spy, Kotyar, to push it somewhere where someone will find it, because right now it's hidden. And I love the scene because he kind of looks at her like, but then somebody might see it. And she just looks at him like, duh.
That's the point. Yeah, so they figure out that the ship is connected to Protogen, and Protogen is connected to Jules Pierre Mao. So they're finally starting to put these pieces together. And Avasarala thinks that this has something to do with why Mars wanted Phoebe Station destroyed. So, you know, she's kind of pulling a Holden here in a way and putting a ship out where it'll be found so that we can start to get this information out in the open and people can start to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Start showing our hand a little bit.
Yep, that's right. And for her, to me, this is a different approach. She's now, like you said, pulling a Holden and changing how she approaches the problem and getting it in front of more people.
Although I'd say there's a big difference in the way that Avasarala pulls a Holden and the way that Holden pulls a Holden, in that Avasarala actually is thinking ahead of the consequences and what those are going to be and how she's going to deal with them, where Holden's more like, this is what I think I should do, and I'm doing it.
Yep.
Consequences be damned.
He jumps in blindly.
Yes. Feet first or head first. Next, we go to a meeting between Fred and Holden and Naomi and Miller. And this was a really fun scene. I really enjoyed this scene where they explained Miller's crazy plan to use the Nauvoo to basically ram Eros and send it into the sun. Because the problem they were struggling with in the last episode is they know there's all this bad shit on Eros, and they know they don't want anybody to get a hold of it, and they also don't want anybody to be exposed to it and spread it around the system. But Eros is kind of too big to just blow up with a bunch of missiles or something. So they're wondering how to deal with it, and you know, we find out that the whole reason the whole reason Miller took his field trip to the Mormon temple was to learn more about the Nauvoo, because he's thinking, hey, the Nauvoo's really big. It has a lot of mass. It has a lot of thrust. It could probably do the job. And not surprisingly, Naomi and especially Holden are not wanting to be in the same room with Miller, or not wanting to have an adult conversation with him. But Miller, or really, I think Fred, gets them to listen to Miller, and Miller kind of lays out his plan, and it might just be crazy enough to work. So next we have a scene where, this stealth ship has now been discovered. It's out in the open. We have the scene with Avasarala and Ehrenreich kind of questioning Mal. And I think finally we start to see Avasarala start to take a stand. And you can see that Ehrenreich's a little surprised that she's kind of going after Mal as aggressively as she is. And later in the episode, we have a discussion, as we call it, Nikki, the breakup discussion between Ehrenreich and Mal, where Mal's all got his, panties in a bunch because, Ehrenreich didn't call his dog off, Avasarala going after him. And they kind of get into it and kind of, harsh words are said and tears are shed. And I think they're breaking up, guys.
Hearts are broken.
Hearts are broken. Yeah.
But I really like this scene because it begins very differently than it ends.
Yes.
And the atmosphere in the room completely changes.
Yes.
You can feel it across the screen. And I love it because at the beginning of the episode, no one understands just how much Avasarala knows.
Yeah.
Ehrenreich has no idea that she is playing him, and he thinks he's playing her.
Right.
And getting the best deal out of it with his relationship with Mao. And Mao has no idea. I don't think he knows much about Avasarala as far as, what she knows about the situation. So he's taken completely by surprise, like you said. And so just what happens in that scene, I relish it. And I think it's probably my favorite from this episode.
I love watching Ehrenreich's cocky, confident, I'm in control of everybody and everything around me face that we've gotten so used to in this show, slowly shift into his oh shit face through this scene. And then later during the breakup, I thought it was really cool that Mal has totally figured out that Avasarala knows what's going on and she's coming after him. And Ehrenreich still doesn't see it or doesn't want to see it.
Right.
Finally Mal's like, you know what? I'm not going to prom with you anymore, Ehrenreich. It's over.
You can return the dress.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going with you. It's over. So now we have the people at Tycho, Fred and his minions, Fred and Drummond and their minions, or Drummer and their minions, because Drummer is definitely not a minion. She's
oh no,
head of the minions with Fred. They are getting the Mormons off of the Nauvoo, using the excuse of a radiation leak, and you see the kind of the head Mormon head honcho guy that Miller was talking to in the last episode. Like, he's not buying it. He's smelling a dead fish. He's like, something isn't right here. And he actually grabs Miller and he's like, I thought you believed in what we were doing. And there's this great line where he said something about, I thought you believed in God's plan or something. And Miller's like, this is God's plan. I just love that. It's like God's plan is whatever you want it to be, right? I mean, that's how this works. Duh. Just so great to see Miller kind of turn it around on him. It's like, hey, I can use that line too. That was awesome. So then we go to Miller getting ready for his spacewalk, his first spacewalk, and Fred gives him his gun back.
Yes.
So that's pretty symbolic.
Oh yeah, it was passing the trust.
Yeah.
And then Naomi ends up confronting Miller, I think because she wants to figure out exactly what he's thinking. And she asks him if he's doing all of this for Mao, or for Julie Mao, I should be specific.
Right.
And I don't know. This scene was interesting to me because Naomi kind of, I think, processes how Miller's feeling. And Miller reminds Naomi that they hid some of the protomolecule in this scene. And that, this is her responsibility. This is kind of on her shoulders.
Yep. And, it's cool because I don't think we really talked about it, but earlier we had a scene with Naomi and Holden where she was kind of defending Miller, because Holden gets on his, his self-righteous high horse and gets all like, off his meds and freaking out and wanting to like rip Miller a new one. And, Naomi kind of said what we said, weeks ago before these episodes even came out about how, Dresden was making way too much sense. And, Miller did what he had to do. He did what had to be done, and Naomi gets that, and I don't think Holden does. And she's trying to like get through that thick skull of his, what's going on. And I think eventually Naomi learns how to get through Holden's thick skull, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah. But right now it seems like Naomi and Miller have an understanding.
Yeah. I think, and that was kind of cool because, if I hadn't read the books and if I had to guess before things shook out, I would have guessed that if anybody was going to understand what Miller did and be cool with it, it would have been Amos. Mm-hmm. And Amos actually is more backing Holden's play because he figures, well, I can't really tell right from wrong anyway. And, Holden's kind of a self-righteous prick. So, if anybody knows what's right and wrong, it's probably him. So he says you got to go. You probably need to go, and it's Naomi who's, let's face it, the brains on the ship, right? I mean, yeah. She's easily the smartest person on the Rosie. She's the one that like gets it and understands why Miller did what he did and understands that the consequences of him not doing that could have been way worse than anything that they're dealing with now.
And a certain part of me has to wonder if she isn't a little biased because they're both belters.
Could be. So every week we usually talk about what's our favorite scene in the episode. And this brings us to my favorite scene in this episode, hands down, and that is the launch of the Nauvoo. I thought this was really cool. I really love the visual effects in this show. We talked about way back in season 1 about how, we really like the more mechanical aspects. For instance, when a ship docks with another ship or a station, it's not some magical, computer generated tractor beam, that brings it in. It's a robotic arm and it just seems cooler and more realistic. And, this is another great example of this. We see this just ridiculously huge ship being, released from all of the structures that are kind of holding it to Tycho Station and all the scaffolding coming away. And then we see, I don't know how many of these little tugboat drone things that come out to like move it out. I mean, it must have been hundreds, it seemed like. And it was really cool. They reminded me of schooling fish, the way that they moved together. And I really got the sense of, these are robots. These aren't piloted ships. They're computer controlled and they're all controlled and they're all working together like a school of fish swimming together. And the way that they all moved together and all attached to the Nauvoo and moved it away from Tycho and oriented it for its trajectory and everything. It was just a super cool scene. And then the Nauvoo ignites its main engines and it was just awesome. I just loved it. I think I could watch that just over and over.
Yeah, we were treated to some great special effects in this episode.
Yeah. And I know, I've heard people from the show or read people from the show saying how, the show isn't about the technology. It isn't about the ships. It's about the humans and the stories and all that narcissistic human centric crap, but I disagree. I think it is about the technology and the chips. At least that's what I watch it for. I could see drama anywhere, right?
Yep.
I can watch a soap opera if I want drama, but The Expanse is the only place where I can see this huge generational ship moved into position by all these robotic tugs and take off on its journey to collide with an asteroid that's inhabited by some ununderstandable alien something. You only get that in The Expanse.
That's right.
You don't get that in The Young and Restless. Or at least I don't think you do. If you do, I'm going to start watching it. So now we go to the crew on Narosi, and they are tagging along with the Nauvoo. And they have this plan of Miller and Diogo and the others are going to spacewalk over to Eros, and they're going to place bombs to blow up the docking area so that even before it gets to the sun, no one can land there and get into it. And so as they're kind of nearing Eros and kind of checking things out, Alex spots another ship docked with Eros, and this is a bad thing.
Oh, yeah.
And this ship is called the Marasmus. And so they send a drone to go check it out, which is another thing I really love about this show, the use of the drones. Mm-hmm. And is another thing that you don't see enough of in sci-fi, considering how things will probably work in the future and how much we will use drones and robotic technology. It's amazing how little of that you see in a lot of sci-fi.
Yeah.
I just love the drones on Narosi. They're so cool. I love it every time they bring one of those out. So Alex sends one of these drones to check out the Marasmus.
And I found it interesting that they were able to break the locks on the door, assuming there were locks, and actually get into the ship with the drone.
Yeah. And then the people on board, clubbed the crap out of the drone, which made me sad.
Yeah.
Which leads to, them having a conversation with these people over radio or whatever they're using. And these people are claiming to be doctors, and they came here to help the survivors. And they say that they haven't been on the station because, the people on Narosi are really concerned that, have these guys been exposed? Have they been contaminated? So they tell them basically to get the hell out of here. And at this point, they're posing as Martian Navy because they're in a Martian Navy ship. So they're acting like they're representing the Martian Navy, and they're telling them, this area is quarantined and you need to GTFO. Mm-hmm. We've got some nice conversation on Eros with Miller and Diogo. I love these guys. I love these guys together.
Yeah.
It's great stuff. Comes out, poor Diogo, we're pretty sure has never been laid. At least that's what Miller thinks.
Aw.
So, we gotta hook Diogo up, guys. Last season it was save Diogo. This season it's how would we say it?
Help Diogo join the Mile High Club? I don't know.
I think they're more than a mile high.
This is true.
Help Diogo get some nookie? I don't know. I don't know someone will come up with a good slogan for that. A good hashtag.
There you go.
Hashtag get Diogo laid. Yeah, it just doesn't, it's not elegant enough.
No.
Need something better.
But I did enjoy the fact that Miller is trying to warn Diogo and says, the OPA, you can't put all of your faith in them.
Right.
And just expect that everything they do is going to be golden.
Right.
You have to, I guess, think for yourself is what he's really trying to tell Diogo.
Yeah.
And Diogo does not seem to be getting it.
Well, I suspect that Miller sees Diogo as reminding him of himself when he was that age. And Diogo is young. He's naive, and like most all young, naive people, he tends to trust people too much, especially, quote, authority figures like the OPA, and just take things at face value and believe what he's told. And Miller's kind of, the more jaded, experienced, wiser man. And he's trying to kind of give him the benefit of his experience and be like, you got to think for yourself, kid, and you can't just trust people. And, you're kind of a tool, and you don't want to be a tool. Like, it's not going to end well.
Right.
It never ends well for tools. You got to be your own man.
That's right.
Yeah. So back on Narosi, things are getting more tense as, well, for one, the Marasmus isn't leaving or they start leaving, and then it comes out that, well, it looks like maybe they did go on board Eros, because Holden finds an airlock that's been tampered with, and he gets inside and there's a body in there. And, I think Naomi asks him if there's a name of a ship on the flight suit. And guess what? Dun, dun, dun. It's the Marasmus.
That's right.
I think we all saw this coming.
Yep.
And so now the Marasmus is leaving, but it's like, well, the chances are good they've been exposed. We can't let them leave. Holden's trying to get him to come back. He's like, we'll figure something out. We'll help you guys out. And they're just booking it. And they're in a situation where they're going around Eros. And right now, Alex is jamming their transmissions from Narosi so that they can't call out to the rest of the system and tell them what's going on. Mm-hmm. And they don't have a lot of time, because once they get around the other side of Eros, they can't jam them anymore once they lose line of sight. And so, in true television fashion, they've got 10 seconds to do something, and we're going to wait till the last second.
That's right.
And Holden finally shoots a missile at him. You know what I think every time this happens on a show?
What?
He waits till the last second. Like, what if the missile jammed or there was a misfire?
Right.
They would have been screwed.
Yep.
In real life, that's what would have happened. Like, if you would have waited till the last second to finally decide what you're going to do, like something would have happened. That missile was a dud, or, there's some kind of glitch, and boom.
In TV world, there's no other option. It's A or B.
It reminds me of Galaxy Quest, when the timer stops at like 0.01 seconds or whatever and doesn't blow up because... that's how timers work on TV. Remember that? That was great. Now I want to go watch Galaxy Quest again. So they blow up the Marasmus, which was pretty cool. And, yet again, we find out in the Expanse, the explosions in space can be dangerous things as debris and shrapnel goes flying everywhere. And so this shrapnel goes flying, punctures Miller's suit. We have a bit of drama there, but before he's able to patch it. But even more bad, damages the last bomb that they've got, to where the thing's wanting to go off now, and he has to like push a button on the control every once in a while, or it starts counting down from a minute. Right. And it's like, someone has to stay here with the bomb so that it can go off at the right time. And, at first Diogo's the one that has the bomb, but Miller takes it from him and is like, kid, get out of here. Go get laid. I'll babysit the bomb.
Yeah. And it fits Diogo's character that he didn't even argue. He's just like, okay.
Yeah. Well, I think he just knew that Miller had made up his mind, Yeah. Like there was this moment where they kind of shared a look, and I think Diogo kind of sized him up and was like, I'm not going to change his mind, Might as well be graceful. And maybe, go get laid. Maybe with one of those beautiful women he's got pictures of all over his quarters over there on Tycho. He likes those athletic women, man. Rock on, Diogo. He's got good taste. Obviously not his girlfriends, though.
Not yet.
Or maybe they're Mormons. I don't know.
I don't know. Part of it for me was Diogo thinking to himself, well, he's an old man. I'm young. I've got the rest of my life. So see ya.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that's what Miller was thinking. So
yeah.
And that, I think Miller kind of has a bit of a death wish because of Julie.
Right.
Like he feels like he failed her, and almost like he deserves it, kind of thing.
Yeah. And so now he's going on these space missions that he hates.
Yeah.
Hates being out in space, but he sees it as the greatest risk he can take to his life.
And maybe, making up for it, trying to make up for failing Julie.
Yeah.
So, Miller talks to the people on the Rossi, tells them what's going on. And, seems like the Nauvoo is going to slam into Eros and knock it into the sun. Miller's going to blow up with all the bombs as they take out the docks and everything. And then something really surprising happens. What happened, Nikki? Tell us.
Oh, this was great. And I hope that everybody watching got a chill when this happened, because the Nauvoo is racing towards Eros, and it seems like at the last second, it goes over its target and completely misses it. And so Miller's freaking out and wondering how they could have missed. And the fact is that Eros moved.
Yeah. They're thinking, did they miscalculate the trajectory of the Nauvoo? Did something happen with the Nauvoo? And yeah, it's like, it wasn't the Nauvoo. Eros actually moved, which seems impossible.
That's right.
And that's kind of our, what they call the button, the little cliffhanger that we end the episode on, is realizing that there's something even stranger going on than we realized.
Yep.
And now what's Miller going to do? He's got this bomb that wants to go off, and the Nauvoo didn't hit Eros. What's he going to do? We'll find out next week. So, Nikki, I already gave my favorite scene of the episode, the launch of the Nauvoo. What was your favorite scene?
Ooh, that was a very good scene. I think I would have to go with the very end, just because of how much importance was packed into that scene. The fact that Eros moved means something is thinking, something is acting upon the stimulus around it. So something within Eros is alive and can make decisions. And that just thrilled me to no end in that episode. So that was my favorite.
Yeah. And there's a lot more I'd like to say, but we're going to have to wait till next episode because I don't want to spoil anything. And we're going to have a lot to talk about next episode. Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Last week in when we were talking about Static, I was saying that I felt like more happened in that episode than in the first two episodes put together. And I feel like this episode coming up next is the same deal. A lot happens in one episode.
Yep.
So that wraps up our discussion of Godspeed. And, as I said, I think it's kind of an ironic title because they stole the Mormons' generational ship that was supposed to take them to some star system where they think they're going to find a Earth-like planet that they're going to be able to settle. Mm-hmm. And they stole it and used it to instead try to save humanity, which I think is more important than whatever the Mormons are trying to do personally. I think if we have to save a part of humanity, let's save the billions in the system and not this handful of Mormons that are probably Miller did them a huge favor because they were just going to all die anyway, horribly out in the vacuum of space somewhere. So now they don't have that to worry about.
I do think Miller was thinking that.
Maybe. But, the Nauvoo didn't hit Eros.
Right.
So,
it's still intact.
Yeah. Maybe the Mormons will get it back. I could say I don't know, but I do. But I'm not going to tell you. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for us this week. And we're going to try to get the next episode out before our new episode comes out later this week and get back on schedule, barring any more plagues coming our way, hopefully.
Oh.
And public service announcement. If you're sick, stay home. Jesus Christ. Yeah, we got sick because we went to the grocery store because some moron had to go out when they were sick instead of staying home and had to go infect everybody. So get your flu shots and stay home when you're sick, people. So we'll be back soon, hopefully, with another episode. And until then, conserve your oxygen and your water. Resources are scarce out in the outer solar system.
Invincible me.
Flip and burn, baby.
Donkey balls.
Doors and corners, kids. Doors and corners.